Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Star Wars Newsnet Live. I am Brian Miller, and I've got with me someone you may have seen in the chat before, but he's never been on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
Nate Manning, everybody. How you doing tonight, Nate?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to chat some Star Wars and what is going on in a galaxy far, far away. It's been a lot of fun, and let's get the good times rolling.
We got a little bit to talk about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul's not with us. He wasn't able to make tonight, and so we're wanting to do the show weekly on Monday nights, and weekly doesn't work out real great for Paul. So Paul will be popping in on weeks when he's available. This week wasn't one of them. So Nate is with me, but Nate is with me because he and I had the opportunity to sit down and buzz through a little novel that's coming out tomorrow, as a matter of fact, Jedi Battle Scars. So Nate, kick us off. Your initial thoughts on the book. So before you do, though, no spoilers. We're not going to do any spoilers for the book because there are spoilers in this book.
Oh, wow.
There's really good spoilers in this book. So no spoilers. But what were your thoughts on the book?
The first thing is, jumping off of that, if you are in any way looking forward to playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you absolutely must read this book because there are some monster bombs in this book that you just need to know the full context behind. But as far as beyond that, what I appreciate about the book itself is that it read so very clearly like the author Sam Meggs has a deep love of the game. And I even talked to her, I can confirm she very much loved it. And you can tell from page one, just the way she writes the characters and how they interact with each other. Every permutation of the Mantis crew is drawn so wonderfully, and it's so much fun to read each character, and you can hear the voices in your head if you're familiar with Fallen Order. It's that authentic to the story, and it goes some places that I didn't expect, but I'm happy it did.
It was a really good gap filler between games. You read the actual book. I listened to the audiobook. And listening to the audiobook actually felt like at times I was listening to the game. I mean, there's even moments where BD pops out the health stems like in the game, and Cal has to use them. And it's so awesomely written to match the games, and you know, with the personalities of the characters, Sam Meggs nailed them. With the voice acting, I'll say this. So the guy that narrated this book for the audiobook, he did his best. He did not do bad. I promise.
There are some tough characters to pull off.
There's some really hard characters to pull off. You know, Marin being one of them with the accent, you know, and being female, it's hard to pull off a female character when you're a male. And some of that was a little jarring, a little bit in the audiobook, but man, when like the music kicks in and when you hear all the sound effects in the background, he did a really good job with Seer, did a really good job with Cal. He did an amazing job with Grease. And so it's top notch. If you're into audiobooks, it's not a bad audiobook to pick up.
Yep. And I'm an audiobook guy myself, but I didn't have a chance to check out the audiobook. So I'm excited to dive in because Penguin Random House, what they do with audiobooks and add in all the sound effects and musical scores and classic and new, it's always a good time because it feels like you're essentially listening to a Star Wars movie or a television episode. So I highly recommend most audiobooks. I'm excited to check this out.
Wouldn't you think if they're going through the effort of doing the music and the sound effects and everything that they would get a full cast to do the audiobooks like that? I mean, but then you're bordering on audio drama. Never mind. Forget I said anything. But one of the things about this book, I remember when I started listening to this, I started thinking about it. Remember when Lost Stars came out, and you remember when Dark Disciple came out? Both of them were tagged as romance novels, basically. And yeah, they were. Dark Disciple more so than Lost Stars, I think, on a deeper level.
Yeah.
But this book was I one of the guys in my podcast group said that it was one of the horniest novels he's ever read.
Yeah.
And it's pretty spicy. It's pretty hot. I'm not like hot like whole, but it's like,
are you sure?
are you kidding? Like, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean it like, but anyway, it is like really, really like it doesn't pull the punches. You know, like Lost Stars, when something was about to happen, the chapter would cut, go to the next chapter. You know, all the romance stuff happened in between chapters. Not this one. But did it throw you off at all? Were you expecting that out of this book?
Not particularly. And I see Sydney in the chat here, and shout out to you, Sydney. I feel like you're gonna but yeah, so all right, love you, Sydney. But yeah, tomorrow on the website Star Wars News Set, you're going to be able to read my full review. And in my review, I mention it but not mention it. And a little preview. I just have one sentence about the character. Well, we'll give a little bit of backstory about the book in a second. But there's this character called Fret, and she is and I say that she's a safe space for Marin in ways that I, as a dude, am not equipped to even attempt to write about because I did not expect that the level of yeah. I don't even know how to describe or even say or talk about it, but you will know when you get there what we're talking about. It doesn't go all the way, but it's definitely one of those things that
far enough.
Yeah, but that you don't read in many Star Wars novels. And I think that just goes back to Megs and her ability to write the characters and how clearly you could tell they care so deeply about each other and love each other. And there's this found family aspect to it that shines in every relationship. So I think it speaks to what she was trying to get across with the book in general, even if it's a little bit abnormal for Star Wars.
You also mentioned Marin. Marin, this is a Jedi Fallen Order game. Make no mistake, this is a Star Wars Jedi universe book. But this isn't really so much a Cal Kestis story as it is a Marin story. Marin really shines in the spotlight in this book quite a bit, and her character. I mean, she was already deep in Fallen Order as it was, but then when she had the potential for a deep character arc, and then this book just ran with it. And I think Sam Maggs did an amazing job with it. I really do. And I wanted more Marin. Yeah. Marin was awesome in Fallen Order. I loved her. And so I was happy to see her kind of take front and center in this.
Yeah. So going back to, I'm still a bit groundwork for where this book is at. If you're not aware, if you're wondering, what are we even talking about, this Jedi Battle Scars? I didn't realize there was a book coming out before Survivor came out. So essentially, Battle Scars, there it is, you see there. It takes place sometime in the gap between games, Fallen Order and Survivor. It could be 2, could be 3, could be 4. Who knows where it is? It doesn't matter. But we rejoined this group, the Mantis, as they are right at this point where they are basically at a crossroads as where do they go from here. They're not ready to split apart yet, but there's definitely tension growing. But then it all kind of comes to a head when this character called Fret comes in that they meet while attacking a Haxion brood base. If you remember that bounty hunter syndicate from Fallen Order, they're still going at it. We see them again, but Fret comes in and she is an Imperial, and she immediately brings this tension to the group because she wants to get out of the Empire, a very noble thing that we have been seeing a lot in Star Wars. And some of these people in the Mantis are like, nah, we're not going to have this. She could ruin everything that we have. So it immediately creates this tension in everybody. And that is really where the book shines. And it wouldn't matter at all if Mags couldn't write the characters. I can't stress that enough, that she nails every single one of these characters.
She does. And And it seems like every time they have an outing, when they come back, they're just more and more at each other's throats because of all of it. More revelations with Fret, you know, and everything like that as they go along. I loved it. I thought this was a great interim novel for the games. It's got me really pumped for Survivor. I was already pumped for Survivor, but I'm really pumped for Survivor now. And not to give any spoilers, I promise I won't do spoilers. But with the way it ends,
we're trying,
and you know what's going on with everybody, it makes me really wonder how Survivor is going to go.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Because like if you've played the games, you know, and if you're paying attention to the Survivor. At the end of Fallen Order, everyone's all happy. They're a happy family, one big happy family. And then you get Survivor. We haven't even seen 2 of the characters in the marketing. No idea where they're at. So
Cal's crashing the Mantis, like
right. And Seer is off doing who knows what. And there might be a little bit of tease in this book that sets up that. That's all I'll say spoiler wise. But well, try. Who knows? I have a loose tongue, so. Trying, it's tough.
I've got my finger on the mute button just in case something slips.
It's so hard because there's so much stuff in this book that just
there are big moments in this book.
I know
there are big, and I mean every character really shines at some point. Everybody has their big moment, and even Grease, like everybody has their big moment, you know. And it's like it's such a good spotlight on everybody, you know. Like I said, it's not just a Cal Kestis story. It's you know, Marin, it's Grease, it's Seer, it's all of them, you know. So, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed the novel quite a bit. And you mentioned earlier you spoke with Sam Maggs in an interview. We're gonna have that out here in the next day or two,
somewhere around there, sometime this week, most likely. Depends when we get it edited, all put together. Because I do ask her about some spoilers, so bit of a preview there. So be aware of that. So that's part of the reason why we're holding it back is because. I just needed to ask her about some stuff, but so it's so hard because I'm such a fan of these characters and this story that I need to know what's next. And this book itched that in a lot of ways. Tie-in novels just straight up don't. So many of this stuff. 1 second, if I can pull this out here. So one of the books for Rise of Skywalker, the tie-in, Resistance Reborn. This book is good. But did it really set up Rise of Skywalker in any way? No, not at all. Not in the slightest. And so many of these big movies and other things, we haven't really seen anything like this since, and we talked about this the other day, Brian, but since Rogue One's Catalyst and just the way that the book is gearing you up for the thing because it just, I don't even have the words to describe the tie-in parts of it, but it's just it's nice to see finally one of these books mean something,
right? The closest one I can think of from the past that's tied in with movie or game or anything like that is the other. I think it was Battlefront 2, Inferno Squad, where you really get the backstory on Inferno Squad before you moved into the campaign for the second game, and wow, did it set it up? I mean, it really to the point where. Spoiler alert, if you haven't played Battlefront, you know that they defect and go to but the story in Inferno Squad is so strong with the characters that when they do defect, part of you is like, are they really defecting, or is this just like a ploy? Like, what is this, an undercover thing? And it just, when you're playing the game, you're just like, are we really rebels now, or what is going on? And then I mean, the novel is that good, and that's the closest thing I can think of as a tie-in compared to this one with the game. So, and we haven't even played Survivor yet.
Yeah. So there could be stuff in here that we don't even know about. I mean, because this is a tie-in novel, the scope is more limited than other novels. So Sam Maggs couldn't do every single thing she probably wanted, but I wouldn't be surprised. Real quickly, what do you think of the fifth brother in this novel? If you didn't know, he's the antagonist.
I really enjoyed him. And after seeing him in Obi-Wan, and this is like right before Obi-Wan.
Let's see. So
would it be? I think it's before Obi-Wan.
Before Obi-Wan, at least a year, maybe two, but somewhere in there.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed him a lot. There's one scene with his lightsaber that is just awesome. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
It's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
But it's I thought he was a really great antagonist for it. I think he was the right antagonist. I definitely think he was the right one, because he wasn't in Fallen Order, was he?
No, it was the second sister and the ninth sister. I believe it was the ninth sister.
So yeah, it was cool to see him to come into it. We knew he was going to make it out of it alive because of Obi-Wan, but you know, it was such a good book. I really enjoyed it.
I know.
I sat down yesterday and powered through like 8 hours of it. Just sat right here and I just powered through 8 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so good.
Once you get through the first act has some really good stuff, but once it gets going, it's a hard book to put down. It's a really hard book to put down. And jumping back to the fifth brother, I really liked him too, because we finally got to dig into him a little bit more. Not super in depth, but enough to be like, all right, you kind of have something to you that relates to these characters. And when he pops up, he means business, and he's taking no prisoners. So he's
a go-getter.
It's a different take on the character, because like an Obi-Wan, I liked him in Obi-Wan, but he was mostly just there, and they straight up just disappeared after episode 4 or 5 in favor of Reva, which made sense for that story. But he didn't really have a purpose beyond just being there. But in this one, when he comes, he stands out, and he is brutal. And there's moments, and minor spoilers, but of course,
I'll put my finger on the mute button. Go ahead.
But of course, Cal is going to have a fight with the fifth brother. Okay. I'm sorry if that's a major spoiler for you guys.
What?
I know.
Battle in a Star Wars?
It's crazy, I know. But you mentioned it earlier, how Megs makes it almost feel like a video game fight is awesome. Yeah. There's a lot of moments in the book that are video gamey, but she finds a way to give them, also in my review tomorrow, read on StarWarsNews.com. So, but she finds a way to give practical in-universe reasons for these video gamey things to exist, and things like that. And I don't know, things like why a double jump is a force power. I just enjoyed reading a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
That
doesn't make any sense.
I know, but Max found a way in the book, so you know what? Fine, whatever.
It makes sense. So, so Jedi Battle Scars is going to be releasing tomorrow, March 7th, and I think I'm still going to purchase it on Kindle just so I've got it. But because I gotta keep that collection up.
Yep. I have it on pre-order on Audible. I'm going to start listening tomorrow or next week. I got a busy next couple days with this book and putting together interviews and stuff. And another thing, I didn't even realize this. Do you remember that Star Wars Hunters game, Battle for the Arena, that they announced several months back? Yep. That they haven't done any press for.
Right. Nothing.
So I'll be digging into that tomorrow. I don't know if we'll do a discussion for it, but I'm interested in reading that too. So busy times in books and Star Wars comics, like it always is. It seems like it always is.
Yeah, I'm so far behind right now. I got stuck on. Oh, what did I say? I got stuck on yesterday. We were talking. I don't remember which one it was. Oh, Midnight Horizon.
I
got stuck on Midnight Horizon for like 3 months, and it got me to hell on my novels.
Yep.
I'm right now. I'm on Princess and the Scoundrel, which is really good. I'm really enjoying.
Yep.
But I haven't even started any of the new High Republic stuff yet.
Yep. The High Republic, it's ramping up. If anyone in the chat wants to talk High Republic, I am here. I'm ready to talk High Republic. I love it. There's a lot to it, and I recognize it's tough to keep up. But if you have the means to catch up, do it. Because Phase 2 has been good, and it's going to ramp up to a good conclusion here in the next couple months. So
sweet. Maybe
get caught up if you can. I know it's a lot.
Maybe I can just sit down and binge all of it.
Yeah.
In one sitting, which I've got a buddy that hasn't read any of the High Republic stuff yet, and he's excited to do it. And I'm like, dude, get attached to every character you can. Just do it. Just get attached to everybody.
It's crazy. It's crazy the ability they have to make you attach to characters so easily. these brand new characters in this brand new era. It's wild. These writers that they have for the High Republic are really good.
Yeah, they really, and the fact that they got them all into one room and hammered everything out, should be enough to make you go, I'm gonna check that out. You know,
they had a plan and they executed. Imagine that. Imagine that as a concept.
Who would have thought that would work? Holy crap! So yeah, that novel comes out tomorrow, and I definitely think everybody here is really going to enjoy it. Sydney, you're really going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If we had your attention just talking, you're gonna adore that book. So
Marin steals the show real quickly. Marin steals the absolute show. If you're a Marin person,
get go.
Oh Lord,
from the get go. He does. You're not wrong. So, another big thing that came out is Mando season 3.
Yeah, this tiny little thing called Mando.
This little indie show that premieres on this little like no name streaming platform, you know, and Mando season 3 finally premiered with an episode called The Apostate. What did you think of this episode? Because I've got my thoughts. I want to see what you think first before I disappoint some people.
Well, I might disappoint some people too.
Okay, fair enough.
I might disappoint some people too. Everything in the episode I liked to loved. I loved being back in this world. I love Mando. I love Grogu, Bo-Katan, Greef Karga. Give me all the Carl Weathers. I know some people were like a little taken aback by his over-the-top nature, but to me, that's just Carl Weathers, baby. Apollo Creed 3. If you haven't seen Creed 3, highly recommend. Sydney, if you're still in the chat, you need to go to Creed 3 now. But yeah, Mandalorian season 3, episode 1, The Apostate. I loved most of what I saw. When it all came together, I don't know, something was missing, and I tweeted it out on my personal account. This was really the first episode for me that felt like it needed to be longer. I know that's a running theme with a lot of these Disney Plus shows that, the episodes are too short. Why aren't they an hour long like Last of Us, Game of Thrones, yada, 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 yada. With The Mandalorian, every single time the episode runs short, I feel like they tell a complete story. I didn't get that here. It jumped quickly between things that I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't flow properly for me. I liked everything I saw, and what's coming up, I can't wait for. You're going to have me up till 2 a.m. tomorrow night with my popcorn and caffeine, doing whatever until then, because I don't want to miss it. But yeah, it's just the first episode. I liked it. I borderline loved it. But when it all came together,
So you guys who were on last week's live stream saw me and Paul get into it about Mando being in Book of Boba Fett and how I swear up and down those 2 episodes should not have been in Book of Boba Fett. And he's like, we'll see when Mando comes out. We'll see. Oh yeah, I saw the premiere for Mando should have been those 2 episodes from Book of Boba Fett. I think had they retooled it a little bit, I think those 2 episodes would have been an awesome kickstart to this season. I think this episode we got as the premiere should have been like the 3rd episode, maybe even the 2nd, make the other 2 one massive episode. Maybe not. Maybe that's just me being spoiled and wanting an hour and a half long episode of Mando. But I definitely think now that the little interim 2.5 should have been the premiere for season 3. It set up season 3 so well, everything that was going to be coming in the future with going to Mandalore and everything like that. But there's something that irks me a little bit between Book of Boba Fett and this season of Mando, those episodes of Mando. In Book of Boba Fett, Din Djarin is standing before the armor and she says, "Have you ever removed your helmet?" And he says, "Yes." And she says, "Then you are Mandalorian no more. And the only way to atone for your sins, for your transgressions, is to go to Mandalore to bathe in the living waters."
The living waters
of Mandalore,
underneath the mines or whatever.
Yeah, and she's like, "You have to do this. This is what you have to do. This is the way." And he doesn't want to do it. He's just like, "Man, another quest? Are you serious?
Come on.
Like, jeez." And so we go about Book of Boba Fett, right? And then we come to this show, and Mando's all like rip roaring, ready to go. "I'm going to Mandalore. I'm going to prove the planet's not poison. I'm going to go atone for my transgressions." And the armorer is like, You can't do that. It doesn't exist anymore. You can't do that. The planet's poison.
Right. Yeah, I didn't
even They
I didn't even think of that.
Really 180'd each other. And
There's a
I'm
plot hole. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense because how big? Because we know there was a bit of a time jump,
right?
Between both, but how much of a time jump to make
right.
them 180 like that?
Right? I didn't even think of that.
As soon as she said that, I'm like, but you're the one that told him you have to go do this. Why are you telling him he can't do it now?
Yeah, it's like they thought of that after they wrote the Book of Boba Fett stuff, and then they came up with a way to extend the season by an episode. And they say, yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's a really good point. And I don't have a problem with Mando stuff being in Book of Boba Fett, honestly. But yeah, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, my thing was the rehash element of it, in that we rehash stuff the Armor already told Mando from Book of Boba Fett. And it's like, really? We're going to do this all over again? And instead of pushing the plot forward and giving us, I don't know, another 2 minutes with Bo-Katan instead of shoving her in for the last 30 seconds of the first episode.
She was hiding in her bedroom and she heard the ship landing. She's like, oh, I got to go sit on my throne.
Oh, she looked great. I love Bo-Katan. She's a total boss. But that moment was like, it was a great scene. Again, all the scenes in the episode were really good. It's just how it flowed, and especially that, it really felt like it stood out. I felt like that could have been the opening of episode 2.
Yeah.
Depending on where they go with that. But I didn't even think of that. That's a good point.
But we did get a shot of live action Purgils.
Yeah.
We got the little tease of him when he's in hyperspace. I like I told you before we started streaming, I was like, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like,
yep.
Yeah, that was me sitting bolt upright in the bed, like, ugh, like I know what those are.
Right.
Do you think that's a bit of a tease for what's coming in Ahsoka?
I feel like it has to be. I don't see why they put it in otherwise. Because unfortunately, as much as we clearly love the space whales and the Purrgil, they are a bit controversial, unfortunately. I don't know why. Why can't people love space whales? Come on. But yeah, I feel like it has to be a tease for Ahsoka, or even maybe later this season. Do you think we see Ahsoka this season?
No. Yeah. I think if I had to put money on it, I'm going to say no. I think Lucasfilm shot their shot with that for now. I don't think they want to do anything else at this point leading up to the Ahsoka series. I think they're going to let that stand. So no, but not to say I don't think we're going to get some big reveals in this season. We always get big reveals in Mando. Huge stuff that makes you stand up and scream at the TV as a fanboy. You know what I mean? Like we always get stuff like that. So I know we're going to get it this season, but I don't think we're going to see Ahsoka again. Yeah. But that's just me. And I didn't think we'd see Luke Skywalker again either. And then he popped up in Book of Boba Fett, right. And in Mando's 2.5. So she might pop back up. I don't know. I guess it depends on what the story needs, and where they go from there. And I think he's got bigger fish to fry with this Mandalore thing now than having Ahsoka pop in for a couple words of wisdom just so Dave Filoni can direct an episode and then shoot out. But
Cindy has a really good question here in chat. Will we see Thrawn? Ah, man.
Ooh.
I'm going to be bold here and say yes.
Yeah? You're going to say yeah?
Because we're obviously going to see him at Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Do we think Moff Gideon has much more story to tell?
This could go either way. This could go either way. Because at first, my first thought is to be like, no, they're not going to drop Thrawn in in Mando. But then I think back to the season 2 finale, and we didn't think Luke Skywalker was going to pop up either, taking down Dark Troopers of all things. So you never say never. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't think it's likely though. I feel like I save that reveal for Ahsoka.
I think they would too, but
they could.
And here's my just random thoughts off the top of my head. I brought up Gideon because I don't know how much story he has left. This could be his last season on the show. Do I want it to be? Not necessarily, depending on what the story they have with him. But we could see him defeated and then in a post-credit scene. Maybe they've been doing that.
Yeah,
that could be a thing. But I could be bold, but as I'm talking, trying to convince myself it's possible, I'm like,
The gears are turning.
I don't know. I don't know. It's possible, but it's probably the only way I could see it is in a post-credit scene. But even then, I don't know if I really want to see him right away. But the next show is going to be Ahsoka, so I feel like they will tease that somehow. Mm-hmm. They almost have to, because that's just the way these cinematic universes work.
Is it Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew?
I believe Ahsoka is this summer. And then I believe, and then Skeleton Crew is in the fall or winter, if memory serves. Okay. I have to look at what the rumors or schedules they have out.
Well, Ahsoka's this year. I can guarantee it.
Ahsoka's this year. Skeleton Crew, we'll see on that. I know they're done shooting it, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll hear more about that show in Celebration. I'm very curious about that show. But yeah, if we don't see Thrawn in a post-credit scene, I feel like we might see Ahsoka and Hera, maybe Sabine. Sabine, I feel like, is the most likely to pop up.
That's likely.
Sabine, I feel like you could probably put some money on and be pretty confident, especially in that Filoni written episode coming up. So,
okay, I'll give you that. Yeah. I'll say that. I think it's more likely Sabine will show up than Ahsoka at this point, with the whole Mandalore thing going on. Let's see here. MB Wilson, Purgil were surely a hint towards Ezra. Also, that Grogu has the same animal skills Ezra does. We saw that in Book of Boba Fett, where Grogu was putting the Rancor to sleep. Have you ever seen another Jedi put a Rancor to sleep? I mean, that's nuts. That was another thing I wasn't a big fan of. But anyway, I digress. I'm not gonna devolve into this puddle.
Why do I have this eerie snowing? Why do I have this eerie feeling like Snoke is coming?
Because
Mr. John, I would love to see Snoke in this show.
Because he is coming. I'm telling you, Snoke is coming. Snoke was already in it. He was in season 2. Not Snoke proper, but they were teasing the whole cloning thing.
They're definitely building between that and Bad Batch as well. They're definitely setting this up. Absolutely. I'm sorry if you're trying to deny it. You are just going to be wrong at the end of the day. I don't know what else to tell you. Will they show Snoke in his final form? Probably not. But because the timelines just don't add up. But you never know. You never know. But they're definitely teeing it up. 100%. Right.
Let's see here. MB Wilson says, "Nah, no Thrawn here."
I wouldn't put money on it, but it would not
put money on no either, though.
Like, I know it's like. They're going to drop a bomb somewhere. Yeah.
Filoni's given us too much, just enough to make us go.
And Favreau as well. I mean, at season 1, they dropped Boba Fett. Season 1, they dropped Boba Fett and didn't even
go back to it. Like,
we had to wait a whole season, so they could do something like that. There could be just a flash of something.
Just hearing his voice, seeing the red eyes glow in the dark or something. That I got chills just thinking about it.
What do we got here?
John Tetcher says, "What if Filoni gives Snoke the Darth Maul treatment and makes him a really great?"
I think Snoke's a good villain already. I think he's a good villain already.
Yeah. Let's see.
Was he underutilized? Absolutely, but I think there's a lot to it. Yeah,
they played him up for Last Jedi way too much just to do what they did to him.
And John, I don't know if you've read some of the comics that involve Snoke, but Rise of Kylo Ren, if you haven't read that comic, I wouldn't say stop watching the stream right now and go read it, but it's only 4 issues. That is a wonderful comic. That's a wonderful comic.
Snoke working on Ben so much in that series. He's just this frail old guy that hangs out in the garden, and then all of a sudden Kylo's like, "I want to join you," and he's like, "You're my apprentice." It's just awesome.
Yeah, there's a whole discussion about how annoying it is that they keep telling these great stories in comics and novels and save it for and ignore it for the movies and TV, but they're out there. A lot of these stories that a lot of fans want are out there.
Yeah.
So,
Sydney's still in the chat. They have to bring in casual fans to some of these other shows. None of the casual fans I know watched Book of Boba Fett. So maybe if they tease Thrawn and Mando, who's to say? Mando is the biggest name out of all. Well, Mando or Andor, which one?
I still think Mando. I think so too.
Andor was for like
I didn't even think of
fans.
because Thrawn is, here's a theory I have about Andor season 2. So at some point the rebellion is going to formally form because the Ghost crew ferries Mon Mothma at a certain point in Rebel season 3. We're probably going to see. I think we're going to see a live action adaptation of that. And who's in that? And who's in that section? Mr. Thrawn. Could we see Thrawn and Andor? I don't know. It's possible.
Or a mention, at least a mention somewhere.
Right. Right. I mean, Ahsoka's going to come first.
Oh,
so we're going to get the establishment of Thrawn in that show,
character,
and then we just see him again and pop up and all the Rebels crew, Hera, Ezra again, all these guys. They'll get a shot to play these characters first in Ahsoka, finish up that story from Rebels, then they just pop up again elsewhere. Classic Star Wars. So I think that's something you might be seeing in Andor season 2. But
I'm not going to say no, because at this point, I'm not betting against anything.
I don't know.
I've learned. I'm not doing it. I just never say never.
Yep.
I feel like at this point, that's where we're at, is never say never.
Yep.
I never thought I would see Luke Skywalker, a live action Luke Skywalker, fighting dark troopers of all things in live action. I never thought I'd see that. And as an adult, my mind has officially been blown. I was holding my 9-month-old son when that happened, and I was standing up, jumping up and down with him, screaming. And my wife's like, "Give me the boy, give me the boy." She takes him. I was losing my mind. So I'm never going to say never again.
Yeah. You can't doubt anything.
No. MB Wilson says Giancarlo has said he is in at least 2 more seasons of Mando.
I feel like I probably should have read that somewhere, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Moff Gideon's story it goes on past this season, because it's Giancarlo Esposito. If you can have him in your show, you're going to have him in your show. And that's still such a rich character with a lot of stuff to go. But I feel like they could wrap it up depending on what they go. Actually, I mean, I don't even know how much we're going to see Gideon in this season, now that I really think about it.
I know. Oh, where did he say it at? He's talking to somebody. I remember who he was doing an interview with, but he said that the Phoenix is going to rise from the ashes. With his character. So he's going to pop up at the most inconvenient time.
Oh yeah.
Like that's when it's going to pop up, and
we're going to get some New Republic stuff at some point, and we're going to probably see him pull off a prison escape. It's just when and when and how and who's involved, because we've seen
Gideon do a Shawshank.
Yep. Oh, that'd be really cool.
It would be so cool.
A whole standalone episode of
a
whole standalone episode of Gideon, and just
don't put it in Mando.
Just flip the Shawshank concept on its head, and Gideon is just this downtrodden individual
crawling through crap to escape. Oh, that'd be great. Let's see here. John Tetra says Han, Luke, and Leia all mention Snoke by name in the sequels, so he has to come into play at some point.
He has to.
All knew him.
There's all kinds of story. I feel like those lines, those mentions are a problem in the sequels themselves. They didn't explore it like they probably should have, but there still is story to tell, and I hope they get a chance to tell it.
Had they not made Snoke a Palp clone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had been his own character, and he'd have been the big baddie through all 3, there was potential there. There was serious potential there. Was it going to feel like a ripoff of Palpatine? Of course.
Probably,
of course. He even talked like Palpatine. Fool. He even talked like Palpatine, because now we know he was. But I think he could have made a really cool villain for the sequels.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We got comments rolling in. You guys are talking tonight.
Oh, yeah.
John Tetra says that comic is what made me so interested in the story of Snoke, Luke, and Ben's stories in the live action in these shows.
In relation to Rise as Kylo Ren. I'm telling you, if anyone in the chat here has not read that, read it.
Really great series.
Read it.
It kind of flew under the radar.
I know, because it was so short, like 4 issues in comic land. I mean, if you're tuned into the comics, 4 issues is 4 months, which is a long time in comics. But it comes and goes so fast.
20 minutes of reading. Oh yeah, that series was done like that. John says, we know Luke and Snoke have fought at some point in canon. Do you think Filoni will tell that story in these Mandoverse shows? It seems like Grogu leaving left the spot for Ben Solo. He did that.
Yep.
Grogu did leave the spot for Ben because it said in canon Ben was Luke's first student, so it couldn't be Grogu.
For me, it all depends because they're talking about adding more shows to this Mandoverse.
Oh yeah,
100%. If they do a whole Luke show, which would be awesome. I don't know how practical that would be because that would be an expensive show. Oh my Lord, that'd be expensive.
Payoff.
I know.
Payoff. Jesus.
Yeah,
a whole live action Luke Skywalker show post Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
I can already hear heads exploding through time and space.
It'd be great. I mean, the technology is only getting better, and as it gets better, they'll find better ways to do it. Yeah. So, I mean, never say never. Never say never.
Didn't they hire that kid from YouTube?
They did.
Boba Fett?
They did.
Such a smart thing to do.
Yeah. In the Book of Boba Fett Disney Gallery episode, if I remember right, he was just on as a consultant, so he didn't really do it.
He just told you how to do it.
But he was in the room as they were trying to put it together, and
so cool.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah,
I love that because I remember right after that episode came out, as great as that episode was. Don't get me wrong, it looked good for what they were trying to do. Yeah. It's not going to look perfect, but it looked good for what they were trying to do. I remember after that, they started doing these deep fakes on YouTube, and you're like, Jesus, like, why didn't they just do that? I'm glad they ended up going that way.
Yeah.
And if you want some more Snoke and Ben, which comic was it? Was it a Age of Resistance comic?
Yeah, the Age of Resistance one-shots are another.
He took Ben to the dark side cave on Dagobah.
Yep.
Was that the Age of Resistance comic? If I remember,
I'm trying to remember because Kylo Ren had one as well.
Right. I don't remember if it was his or if it was Snoke's.
I'm pretty sure that was the Kylo Ren one.
Okay. Either way, I
can't remember. But that story's told.
There's an issue, yeah.
And and if that's Kylo Ren, then Snoke has a whole nother one that I can't remember exactly. But there's that's also another really good series. A lot of cool sequel stories.
Because Kylo saw Luke Skywalker in the dark side cave, and it was just this awesome comic, and it's just an awesome issue. John says chapter 16 of Mando was a religious experience, in all honesty.
It changed everything. It changed everything.
It did.
Star Wars will never be the same.
Because now, between that and Book of Boba Fett, it is now a reality that we could possibly do. Freaking bug flying around here. I don't know if you saw it. We could do a full feature. Like you said earlier, it would be expensive, but we could see the big three on screen together again if they just did it.
Yep.
You know, the possibility is there. Like it's physically possible. So I think that would be.
You'd have a lot of hurdles and a lot of people to satiate because I know a lot of people would be upset about recreating Carrie Fisher.
Right.
But I feel like that's also just something we're going to have to accept going forward as well. Because they did with Peter Cushing already at the Rogue One. So
it was clunky, but it worked.
Yeah.
But
again, back in those days, the technology wasn't where it's at today. Right. So as it gets better, we're going to see this a lot more. And I'm blanking on some recent movies that have done it as well. But it's going to happen.
The film is doing it with Harrison Ford.
Yep.
You know, so at this point, we've come this summer, we'll have seen movies with all three of the big three being de-aged at some point, whether it be another movie or not, but we've seen young Leia again. We've seen young Luke, and, we're going to see young Harrison Ford. It's possible to do it. It's just like you said, it would be so expensive.
I know,
but man, would that be a religious experience on top of this too. Yep. Like that would just be wild. Danail's on unpopular opinion. Grogu will become force sensitive bounty hunter, and he will be saved by Filoni and Favreau in the unknown regions. I think here's my theory with Grogu. I think the title The Mandalorian does not refer to Din Djarin.
That's a theory.
I think it's Grogu. I subscribe to that hardcore. The fact that he chose that life when given the option between Mandalorian, Jedi, and that he is force sensitive. We already know that canon had a Jedi Mandalorian. That's where the Darksaber came from. So is Grogu the next one?
Here's my take. I just think it's just a title.
Yeah, just the title.
I think it's a title.
Not too far into it.
I don't think there's anything beyond that. Could Grogu become a Mandalorian one day? Absolutely. I would love to see him become a bounty hunter. That'd be a lot of fun. Because there's story. Right now, it's just a harmless Jedi baby.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what they could do with him in the future? There's endless potential with that character, but that could be kind of cool to see him be the guy to kind of explore the unknown regions and ways we haven't seen before, because we're slowly getting there. But Grogu could be a cool.
And can you imagine people laughing when Grogu walks up to them and they're like, "You're the bounty hunter they sent after me"?
Hey, just point blank.
Can you imagine? Oh God, it'd be embarrassing.
I probably shouldn't have done, but whatever.
Gideon is going to have Maul-like Mando armor, according to an earlier interview.
Yep. And we had a
Very
exclusive cool. Talking about that, and he has a special Death Watch-esque Darth Maul helmet with all kinds of horns and whatnot.
What? I must have missed this interview.
It was. I don't know about the interview, but we had a scoop months back about it. But yeah, he's going to have a very unique look. So,
oh my God,
it's going to be cool to see. Well, allegedly he's going to have a cool look. We hope he has a cool, unique look, because there's other interviews, and I'm sure it's the same one. But yeah, John, I see you in the spoilers. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bro. But I said earlier that I have a loose tongue. I have a very loose tongue. I'm sorry. But yeah, earlier on, with Gideon, his arc this season is that he kind of says he wants to be a Mandalorian. So I'm very curious about what that means. I'm not very sure, but I'm interested to see.
Darksaber, he already was.
I don't know what his goals are. I mean, we haven't really spent enough time with him to really understand.
That guy's playing 5D chess.
Right. It feels like it's a complete 180 from what first he wants to clone Grogu, then he just wants to, I don't know what, and now he wants to be Mandalorian. So I don't know what his end game is with all of this. So I hope we get those answers. That'd
be cool. Let's see here. John says Snoke isn't a Palpatine clone. He says I made Snoke. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I guess Snoke kind of was his own entity.
Well, there was the Rise of Skywalker novel that kind of went into an explanation that essentially Snoke was made to be a host for Palpatine. So if it worked out the way Palpatine wanted, his essence would have been fully inside Snoke. So yes, he made him, but if it went to Palpatine's designs, he would have been a reborn Palpatine. But that didn't work out, as we saw in Rise of Skywalker. So
Shadow of the Sith kind of touched on it a little bit too. A little bit there with Rey's parents. See, John says he is a strand cast with his genetically artificial thing common misconception. Yeah. And actually, according to the comics, that was all made from Luke Skywalker's hand.
Yeah, I forget which
comic for a second. I was like, nobody knew that apparently. There's one comic.
I forget about that all the time.
Severed hand floating in the jug, and it's implied that it's Luke Skywalker's hand. Thought that was interesting because in Legends they did Luke.
Right.
It was a clone from the hand, so it was kind of a nice touch. David's on Shamook.
Yep, Shamook was the guy, the deep fake guy.
Yep. John says, I have a feeling Grogu going back with Mando is somehow tied into Ben Solo and his eventual fall. Just seems like something Filoni would do. After all, Grogu gave into his attachments. It's true. It does set the stage for Ben.
Grogu going back with Mando is somehow tied. Yeah, we'll see. It's so hard to tell. It all depends where the story goes. I don't know how. It's so easy to say that all this has to tie in to sequel stuff.
Yeah.
But really, we don't know. I mean, there's
still 5 years.
Yeah, I know. There's still so much time. There's decades.
Yeah.
Ben is, at this point in time, he's still
4, 5, 6.
He was born
a year after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so around the Battle of Jakku, we're at about
the same day that battle ended. That battle happened. Yeah.
Yep. And based on timeline stuff that Filoni and Favreau have been saying, I don't know where we're at in the timeline anymore. I have no earthly idea.
On my podcast and website are meant to keep this stuff in order, and he just threw a monkey wrench into
it's a whole mess. I don't know if anyone in the chat knows or can piece it together for us. Go for it. But I think we're somewhere around 9 or 10 ABY. So he's probably around 8, 9, 10. I don't know. But yeah, he's still running around with Han and Leia, and he's just out of cribs, just out of diapers. He's still
giving Han gray hairs.
Yep.
We know from like the Last Shot novel that he was having a hard time.
I love that novel too.
I do. Don't get me started on that novel. It's so low on my list.
I really enjoy that novel. Is it great? No, but I love the banter between Han and Lando. I really enjoyed that.
I'm going to derail this for a second because I want to talk about this book for just a second. That book bounced back and forth so much between 3 different time periods, and they never said like which time period you were on, and you were like, you had to read for a minute to figure out where you were at. Had they told the story linearly, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah,
but it was all over the place. It was just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, but I think for me with that book is because I listened to that book in audio, and I can't remember what they did with the production side of it, but they were able to make it a little bit more clearer where they were in the timeline. I can't remember what they did, whether it was some kind of music cue or something, but I'm pretty sure I had a much easier time following where they were at. Because, yeah, I do agree. They jumped around, and they had a very ambitious idea for that novel.
They had a cool villain, though.
Oh, yeah. Very
Basically, cool. Star Wars Dr. Frankenstein. Like, it was awesome. I loved the villain. I just think he was wasted on that novel. MB Wilson says Leia is going to happen eventually. I hope so.
Eventually, yeah. I hope so. The technology is getting to the point where it's going to happen whether you like it or not.
It's indistinguishable. I mean, you almost can't even tell. Look at Book of Boba Fett. Luke looked so good, and the voice for Luke in Book of Boba Fett was all AI generated.
Mm-hmm.
That was a computer coming up with his voice, with his lines, everything. It was just so like chef's kiss perfect. Let's see. John says, I think the Mandalorian refers to Din, but it's about his sacrifice for Grogu in some way. Yeah.
I don't know if they killed Din. I don't know.
Well, he's in Galaxy's Edge now, which canonically takes place
technically
Episode 9. So
technically he has to live all the way to then.
All the way up to Galaxy's Edge.
But I feel like they're kind of pushing back on that whole canonically
of it,
just to get more people in the doors of Galaxy's Edge. Because for a while I read in places that people were just not going to Galaxy's Edge anymore, so they had to do something, and that's
the same thing over and over. And if it was one of those things where they that'd be expensive. Rebuild Galaxy's Edge every 5 or 10 years. Can you imagine how expensive that? God, man. I'm gonna forget I even said that. John says I see Din giving my life for him, or giving his life for him. In the long run, oh man,
I'd have to think about it some more, but it's possible. It would break the entire fandom in pieces and shatters.
Pedro Pascal is going to be known as the guy that just transports these special young people all over the place. Yep. If you haven't watched The Last of Us,
I need to catch up on that show desperately.
Dude, last night's episode made me cry. I've played the game 1,000,000 times, and last night's episode still got me.
That show just does everything right.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see here. MB Wilson says Gideon led the purge.
He did. But that was as an Imperial, not necessarily wanting to be a Mandalorian.
Right.
But in that, he got the Darksaber, so he ended up being the leader of the Mandalorians. So I don't know. We haven't heard him ever say he wants to be a Mandalorian at the end of all this. So I don't know what his goals are.
I hope that his armor looks like that alien-esque armor we got in Jedi Outcast that Admiral Fayar was wearing. I hope it's that alien cheesy looking armor. I hope to God it is, because he's just so bad at making. I just hope that's where we go. John says Ben must be like 6 or 7. Yeah, 6.
I think he's slightly older than that, but he's somewhere around there. again, it all depends on where we're at in the timeline.
Right.
I have no
We don't know
idea anymore.
It just
because they said there was a couple years between Mando season 1 and the end of season 2, which I can see, but after that, I have no earthly idea.
Yeah, no,
it's baffling. I don't know.
Had he kept his mouth shut, it would have made a little more sense.
I know. It's like, why even address that question? Like, I don't know. You're just
we had it figured out. Like, we had
and we had it figured out in that it didn't matter. It didn't matter. We were just watching the show and enjoying it.
Yeah. Oh no, there's like a 2-year time jump. What the hell? When? Like
how?
What?
What was just sitting there on the throne doing nothing for 2 whole years? What are you talking about?
They had to have gone to Octu for like a week or something because apparently time moves different there.
Right.
John says, but hey, Anakin was 9 in the Phantom Menace and Leia was 10 in Kenobi. It was kind of cool seeing that. And so was Luke. Luke was 10. Sydney says, in that Filoni interview with Ash Crossan at the premiere, he was so adamant about not giving a specific Grogu age, but they did in the show.
Yeah, 50.
When 50, yeah, when they said that his target was 50 years old, which
yeah. In recent interviews, Filoni's been trying to walk back Favreau's disastrous timeline comments.
I want to see him walk back this new one because it's muddy.
Yeah, we'll see where we end up with all that.
Oh my god. The Luke and Leia training flashback in episode 9 was fantastic. It was a nice touch.
It was
really
wonderful.
Cool.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
And there's a theory going around that the reason Leia kicked his butt is because he sensed Grogu and Mando calling out from Tython, and that's when he left to go do that. I don't know if that holds any weight. I don't know where that scene landed canonically, but it was.
I lose my mind over this stuff, so I'm just trying to not. Trying to not. I'm trying to just enjoy the stories as they are, which always angers me when then creators muddy the waters like this and just other things and trying to online theories, and it's all in good fun. It's all in the name of the love of Star Wars, but it's exhausting. It's at a certain point
trying to keep up with all of it. It really is. MB Wilson says, I think the 2-year comment was taken out of context. It very well could have been.
Yeah, I think so too. And then Favreau himself even walked back, and then Favreau himself even walked that back and to say that the time between Mando and Book of Boba Fett, season 2 and Book of Boba Fett, that 2 years was the initial where everyone was like, what do you mean by that? So, and then he walked back that just slightly and said, oh, it could be somewhere in there. But yeah, I don't know.
Somewhere.
It's taken out of context, probably. I mean, creators and actors talk out of their butts so much. It's so hard to keep track.
Stuff on the seat of their pants, and they just make it so much worse.
I mean, there was the whole Freddie Prinze Jr., Dave Filoni, Rogue One nonsense. The other,
right? Was there anything to that? Like,
I don't know. I mean, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Dave Filoni are buds. They worked together for years on Rebels. They're close. Every time Freddie Prinze Jr. talks Dave Filoni, it's nothing but glowing praise. So they're close. So I feel like he probably just heard something somewhere one day and just blew it way out of proportion. Because he doesn't have a filter on any of these, he'll just say whatever comes out, and people take him at his word because he's Freddie Prinze Jr. and he was involved in Star Wars.
Yeah. Yep. Like I feel like we would have known about that. Because that was a huge thing when that movie hit. When Rogue One came out and everybody walked out like, what the was that?
I mean, could it be a case where they just don't want to admit that Filoni, well, he didn't save Rogue One with that scene, but I mean, Rogue One wouldn't be what it is without that Vader scene. So, so, who knows?
John says, oh boy, I'm about to jump through the camera at you, boy. Man, I would love Filoni to adapt the Lucas Microbiotic World Secret Trilogy treatment concepts.
I would love it too. I would love it too.
Let's just do a whole trilogy on midichlorians.
Would it be awful? Probably, but
the word midichlorians isn't even in the new canon. It is nowhere in the new canon. I think there's 1 or 2 mentions, but like even in like Mando, they didn't refer to it as a Mandalorian or as a Mandalorian count. Jesus, as a midichlorian count, they refer to it as an M count. They just what's his M count?
Basically the same thing. Let's be honest here. It's the same.
Like, it's God, I hate that. I hate that aspect of Star Wars so much because it demystifies the Force.
It does.
You know?
It does. I've never. over the years, the Phantom Menace, I've enjoyed it more and more. But there's some things it's like, did you really have to go there?
Why? Yeah, why? However, I will say this though to you, John, if I didn't run you off, if you're still here, I am a huge advocate. Like I read everything canon. I only read canon now. Like that's because I don't want to. Because my stupid lizard brain can't differentiate between the two.
I can't either. I'm the same way.
So I just read canon. However, I am a huge advocate for Lucasfilm doing more expanded universe stuff, some more legend stuff, because there's a market for it. There's a fan base for it.
Yep.
People love those stories. There's a huge platform for you to just kick off on already to run with. I don't see why they can't do it. If they're still producing the old books now under the Legends banner and people aren't getting confused, why can't you come out with new books with the Legends banner and it won't confuse people?
And they're still doing the Old Republic MMO. They're still updating that all the time. So there's still Legends content out there,
right?
And they're still making it. But yeah, I've been the same way. And yeah, I'll never. I as much as I want to go back and read some of the books I've missed and some of the comics I've missed from Legends, I just don't have the time anymore with all the canon. No. But if they come out with new stuff, I'll check it out. I'll check it out because it holds such a near and dear place in people's hearts.
And they could even do something like we have Visions. Visions isn't canon, so why can't we do a story based off of that on Visions, and still tell that story for people who want to hear about it, like John, but us canon junkies don't have to go, are you serious? You really made that canon? Like, really? You know what I mean? So I still think it'd be a good idea to do that. Yeah. John says, as much as I love the Disney sequel trilogy, I think Lucas's sequel trilogy would have been something our world has never seen or thought of before. Get trippy with it. Star Wars is deep.
I love weird Star Wars. I love weird Star Wars. Can you market that as a full trilogy? I don't know. Would I be there opening night and see it 10 times? Yes, because I love it.
Star Wars: The Magic School Bus, though. Like, I don't know if I would go down that route, down that rabbit hole. I'm sure people would still go see it.
It's Star Wars. It's Star Wars. It still make all the money.
Star Wars,
and I mean, The Force Awakens could have been The Force Awakens with midichlorians and just midichlorians, and it still would have made $2 billion because it'd be the first Star Wars movie in forever.
Yeah,
so it still would have made the money, even if it was that weird Star Wars on acid, as John says as John says in the comments. But yeah, it's like I still would have made all the money in the world.
Yeah,
but can you do a full trilogy on that? I don't know. I would love to see it because I am a midichlorian defender, but I don't know. It's one of those things that's just like, I don't know.
We need to wrap up. We're already over an hour here.
I know we are.
Let's do these last two comments and then we'll wrap it up. Pablo, Hal Hickel, and Gary Whitta debunked Freddy's story today and said Gareth directed the Vader hallway scene. Fair enough.
Yep. They've been coming out and saying, nah,
lies. John says
heads
were about how we are connected from the smallest things imaginable to the largest thing imaginable. We don't know much about it. Yeah. No, I mean, with midichlorians being able to connect every living thing in the universe or in the galaxy, at least, that's a lot of what's the phrase? It's a lot of quantum entanglement stuff. That's some quantum entanglement.
It's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time.
That's some deep stuff. He said his Star Wars was deep. Yeah, they can get deep doing that. So
yeah, there's a market for it. I want to dig more deep into that weird stuff. I mean, some of the Clone Wars arcs with Yoda going on his Force journeys and stuff like that. I want to see that stuff, but can you bring it to a full-blown audience? Right. I don't know.
Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for our live stream this week. I've had a blast sitting here talking to you about Battle Scars and Mando and talking to all you guys. You guys are what makes this live stream. So
don't forget, get this book tomorrow any way you can. If you are playing Survivor, you will want to know this book, man.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, and even if you're not playing the game, it's still a great novel. I really had a lot of fun reading it. So thank you guys for hanging out with us this week. Nate, where are people going to be able to find you on the interweb, on the
you see me on Twitter there, Nate _Manningham. I don't know how to describe where the Manningham came from, but that's just the way it is. So Nate_Manningham on Twitter. That's really where I am the most active. So find me there, chat with me about Star Wars. You'll find me tweeting about movies I see, Creed 3, going to see Cocaine Bear this upcoming weekend.
Oh, I want to see that so bad.
I can't wait for that movie. I watch a lot of movies, a whole lot of TV, sports, and just tweet random crap. So yeah, so that's where you can find me. And yes, Sydney, I see you in the chat again. I am a big Snoke stan. Yes.
You brought up Cocaine Bear. I took my foster daughter to go see Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey last week.
Oh my god, that movie sucks so much. Oh my god, that sucks so much.
We talked about going to watch Cocaine Bear instead, and I wish we would have.
Oh, Blood and Honey sucks so much.
I knew it was gonna be bad. Anyway,
but it was even worse.
But it had potential at the beginning with the animators.
It did. I enjoyed that, and I liked the production design and the set design on 100 Acre Wood, but everything else.
Oh my god! In the middle of the anyway. That's an entirely different show. Thanks, guys, for joining us. You guys can find me on the Star Wars Canon podcast each week, sitting down with my buddy Yusuf, and we talk about all things Star Wars, talk about a little bit of news, answer a whole bunch of mailbag questions. So definitely go over and check that out. And you guys can find me on Twitter. Which hand is it? That one right there, at Brian Miller at 1138. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and until next week, may the Force be with you guys.